The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars. Zenith Prime was the center of the Galactic Council, where 1,000 different alien species came to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Today, the Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. They were here to discuss something unusual, something that had not happened in over 300 years. A new species had been discovered. Commander Vexitar stood at the center of the chamber. His scales gleamed under the bright lights as he addressed the council. He was from the Zintian Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. His voice was confident and strong. "This new species calls themselves humans," Vexitar said. "They have just invented faster-than-light travel. Their planet is called Earth, located in a remote part of the galaxy. They are primitive but curious. They have sent messages requesting contact with us." Many council members nodded. This was standard procedure. When a new species developed space travel, the council would evaluate them. If they were peaceful and willing to follow galactic law, they could join the community. If not, they would be isolated until they learned better. But not everyone was comfortable with this discovery. In the back of the chamber, an old alien named Keeper Shenva rose slowly. She was the archivist, responsible for maintaining the ancient records. Her job was to remember the history that others had forgotten. She moved forward, her old body moving carefully. "I must speak," Shenva said, her voice quiet but firm. Vexitar looked annoyed. "The Keeper wishes to address the council." "Speak quickly. We have much to discuss." Shenva activated a holographic display. Ancient text appeared in the air, written in a language so old that most council members could not read it. "These are the predecessor records," she said. "They are over 10,000 years old, written by a race that existed long before our civilizations rose to power." "We know of the predecessors," Vexitar said impatiently. "What does this have to do with the humans?" "Everything," Shenva replied. "The predecessors left warnings, very specific warnings. They wrote about a species they called the persistent species. They described beings who lived on a world of constant danger, who evolved to never give up, who turned every defeat into a lesson and every loss into fuel for their determination." She changed the display. More text appeared along with images. The images showed a blue planet with large oceans and green land. It looked exactly like Earth. "The predecessors encountered humanity thousands of years ago," Shenva continued, "before humans had even left their world. The predecessors studied them carefully, and they left these warnings for future generations. They wrote, 'Do not provoke the persistent species. Do not trap them. Do not threaten them. They do not know when they are beaten. This is both their curse and their greatest strength.'" Many council members laughed. Vexitar's expression was dismissive. "These are myths, Keeper. Superstitions from primitive times. The predecessors were advanced, but they were not perfect. They clearly exaggerated the danger of one primitive species." "I strongly disagree," Shenva said. "The predecessors never exaggerated. They were careful observers. They left these warnings for a reason. But the council was not interested in old warnings. They believed in their own power. The Galactic Council had maintained peace for thousands of years. They had superior technology, vast armies, and the wisdom of countless civilizations. What could one primitive species possibly do against such might?" The vote was taken. The council decided to send an expeditionary force to Earth. Commander Ralvik was chosen to lead it. He was a military officer, experienced and confident. His orders were simple: assess humanity, deliver the council's terms, and secure their submission to galactic authority. Ralvik bowed to the council. "It will be done," he said. "I expect this primitive species will be eager to join our civilized community. If not, we will quarantine their system until they learn respect." Keeper Shenva watched as the council dismissed her warnings. She felt a deep worry in her heart. She had spent her entire life studying the ancient records. The predecessors had been wise. They did not leave warnings without reason, but no one would listen. She returned to her archives and began searching for more information about humanity. Perhaps there was something she could do to prevent disaster. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Endeavour. He was looking at a message that had just arrived from deep space. His heart was racing with excitement. "They responded," he said to his crew. "The aliens actually responded to our messages. His communications officer, a woman named Amy Rodriguez, read the message carefully. "They're calling themselves the Galactic Council. They want to meet with us. They're sending a delegation to Earth." Jake could hardly believe it. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. First contact with alien life, proof that they were not alone in the universe. This would change everything. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Jake said. "We need to prepare for this meeting." Within hours, the news spread across Earth. People celebrated in the streets. Scientists prepared questions. Diplomats practiced their speeches. Humanity was about to join a galactic community. They would learn from advanced civilizations. They would explore the stars together with new friends. Amy Rodriguez was chosen to be the lead diplomat. Kevin Chen, a brilliant scientist, would advise her. Brandon Walsh, a security officer, would ensure their safety. They prepared for the most important meeting in human history, but they did not know what was coming. They did not know that the Galactic Council viewed them as primitives. They did not know about the warnings left by the predecessors. They did not know that the aliens already considered humanity inferior. 2 weeks later, Commander Ralvik's fleet arrived at Earth. His ships were massive and powerful, designed to impress and intimidate. He looked at the blue planet below and smiled. This would be easy. Primitives always submitted when they saw superior technology. The first meeting was held on a neutral station in Earth's orbit. Amy Rodriguez led the human delegation. She was nervous but excited. She extended her hand in the traditional human greeting. Commander Ralvik did not take her hand. Instead, he delivered his message coldly and clearly. "The Galactic Council acknowledges your existence," he said. "You will submit to our authority. You will follow our laws. You will accept our guidance in all matters. If you refuse, your system will be isolated from the galaxy until you learn obedience." Amy's smile faded. This was not the friendly first contact humanity had hoped for. "We appreciate your offer," she said carefully, "but humanity values its independence. We would prefer to join your community as equals, not subjects." Ralvik's expression hardened. "You are not equals. You are primitives. You have nothing we need and much to learn. Submit or face the consequences." The meeting ended badly. As the human delegation returned to Earth, they carried terrible news. The aliens were not friends. They were conquerors. And humanity had just refused to surrender. The Galactic Council was not pleased. News of humanity's refusal spread quickly through the chamber at Zenith Prime. Commander Vextar stood before the assembly, his anger visible. "These humans dare to refuse us?" he said loudly. "They are barely capable of spaceflight, yet they speak of independence? This insult cannot stand. We must make an example of them." Many council members agreed. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained order through fear and respect. Every new species eventually submitted. Those who refused were isolated until starvation and desperation changed their minds. It always worked, the Council voted. Earth would be blockaded. No ships in or out, no trade. No communications with the rest of the galaxy. Commander Ralvik would lead the blockade fleet. They expected humanity to surrender within 1 month. Ralvik assembled his forces. 50 warships, each more advanced than anything humanity possessed. He positioned them around Earth's solar system, cutting off all routes to deep space. His officers were confident. This would be simple. "Maintain your positions," Ralvik ordered his fleet. "Monitor all human activity. They cannot grow food fast enough to feed their billions. They cannot manufacture what they need without trade. Time is against them. Soon they will beg for mercy." Back on Earth, President Katie Sullivan called an emergency meeting. Every major leader, every military commander, every top scientist gathered in a secure location. The mood was tense but determined. "They think we will break," Katie said, looking at the faces around the table. "They think we will surrender when things get hard. But they do not understand humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We have climbed back from the edge of extinction more times than anyone can count. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone." Admiral Chris Bennett, the highest military commander, stood up. "We are outmatched in technology," he admitted. "Their shields are stronger. Their weapons are more powerful. Their ships are faster, but we have advantages they do not expect. We are creative. We are adaptable. And we fight hardest when our backs are against the wall." Dr. Lisa Morgan, a brilliant physicist, nodded in agreement. "We have been studying their technology from our brief encounters. I believe we can find weaknesses. Every system has flaws. We just need time to analyze them." Time is something they think we do not have, Katie said. So let us prove them wrong. Admiral Bennett, mobilize our fleets. Dr. Morgan, I want daily reports on any technological breakthroughs. We are going to show these aliens what humanity is really capable of. The blockade began. For the first month, humanity seemed to struggle. Food supplies were calculated carefully. Resources were managed with precision. But they did not break. Instead, they worked. Captain Jake Morrison led reconnaissance missions. His ship, the Endeavour, was small and fast. He and his crew observed the blockade from a distance, studying patrol patterns and ship movements. Every detail was recorded and analyzed. They are predictable, Jake reported to Admiral Bennett. They follow rigid patterns. They never deviate from their schedules. They are so confident in their superiority that they have become lazy. Dr. Lisa Morgan worked day and night with her team. They examined every scan they had of alien technology. Dr. Tyler Brooks, another scientist, discovered something important. Their shields operate on a specific frequency, Tyler explained. They rotate through frequencies to prevent attacks, but there is a brief moment during rotation when they are vulnerable. It only lasts a fraction of a second, but if we can time our weapons correctly, we can hit them. How do we time something that fast? Lisa asked. Tyler smiled. Computers. We develop targeting systems that can calculate and fire automatically. The aliens rely on manual controls. We use automation. Meanwhile, Amy Rodriguez was not idle. She had maintained secret contact with Keeper Shenva, the old archivist who had warned the Council. Shenva was sympathetic to humanity and provided valuable information. The Council believes you will collapse from within. Shenva sent in an encrypted message. They expect your people to turn on your leaders, demanding surrender. They do not understand that humans unite when threatened. Amy smiled as she read the message. The aliens truly did not understand humanity. Every challenge made humans stronger, not weaker. 3 months passed. The blockade continued. Commander Ralvik received reports that confused him. Human activity had not decreased. Instead, it had increased. Mining operations in the asteroid belt had expanded. Construction projects were visible everywhere. New ships were being built. What are they doing? Ralvik wondered aloud. They should be running out of resources. His second officer reviewed the data. It appears they are adapting, Commander. They are mining their asteroid belt for materials. They are building new habitats in space. They are not preparing to surrender. They are preparing for war. Ralvik dismissed the concern. Let them prepare. Our technology is superior. Whatever they build will be primitive compared to our ships. We will destroy anything they send against us. But Ralvik was making his first critical mistake. He was underestimating human creativity under pressure. While he watched and waited, confident in his superiority, humans were learning and adapting at a speed he could not imagine. Brandon Walsh, an engineer who had joined the security forces, led a team working on new weapons. They could not build anything as powerful as alien technology, but they could build something different, something unexpected. We do not need to match their power, Brandon explained to his team. We need to exploit their weaknesses. Dr. Morgan found the shield vulnerability. Now we build weapons that can hit those vulnerabilities. Fast, precise, automated weapons. Human ingenuity went into overdrive. Ships were retrofitted with new systems. Weapons were designed specifically to counter alien technology. Tactics were developed based on centuries of human warfare, strategies the aliens had never seen. 6 months into the blockade, humanity was ready. They had not surrendered. They had not broken. Instead, they had transformed their entire civilization into something the Galactic Council had never encountered before. A species that turned desperation into determination, fear into fuel, and disadvantage into opportunity. Admiral Chris Bennett stood before his fleet commanders. Nicole Parker, a young but talented officer, was among them. She had proven herself during training exercises and would lead one of the strike squadrons. The Council thinks we are trapped, Bennett said. They think we are weak and desperate. They are half right. We are desperate. But desperate humans are the most dangerous creatures in the universe. Tomorrow we show them what happens when you corner humanity. Tomorrow we strike back, the commander saluted. They returned to their ships and prepared for battle. Across Earth's orbit, hundreds of ships moved into position. Every crew member knew the stakes. They were outmatched and outgunned. But they were human, and humans had overcome worse odds before. Commander Ralvik sat on his flagship, unaware of what was coming. He reviewed reports and felt satisfied. The blockade was working perfectly. Soon, very soon, these primitive humans would have no choice but to surrender. He looked forward to reporting his success to the Council. He had no idea that in just a few hours everything would change. He had ignored the warnings from the ancient predecessors. He had underestimated humanity, and he was about to pay the price for his arrogance. In the darkness of space, human ships powered up their engines. Weapon systems came online. Targeting computers calculated trajectories and shield rotation patterns. Crews took their positions. The waiting was over. The time had come for humanity to remind the galaxy of something important. Never assume that the cornered prey will not bite back. The attack came at dawn, Earth time. Admiral Chris Bennett had chosen the moment carefully. The alien blockade fleet was in the middle of a shift change, when crews were tired and attention was lowest. Human ships emerged from hiding spots throughout the solar system, striking from multiple directions at once. Commander Ralvik was awakened by alarms blaring throughout his flagship. He rushed to the bridge, still trying to understand what was happening. His screen showed chaos. Human ships were everywhere, attacking with a coordination and ferocity that shocked him. Shields up. "Return fire!" Ralvik shouted, but the humans had done their homework. Dr. Lisa Morgan's discovery about shield vulnerabilities was now being put to brutal use. Human weapons fired at precisely calculated moments, slipping through the brief gaps in alien shield rotations. Ships that had seemed invincible were suddenly taking damage. Captain Jake Morrison led his squadron in a daring attack on the flagship's flank. His ships moved in patterns that confused the alien targeting systems. They would attack, retreat, and attack again from a different angle. It was guerrilla warfare in space, tactics drawn from human history that the aliens had never encountered. "Target their communications array," Jake ordered. "If we can blind the flagship, the rest of the fleet will be confused." His weapons officer, a skilled pilot named Nicole Parker, executed the attack perfectly. Her shots hit the alien ship's communication systems, causing temporary chaos in the blockade fleet. Ships lost coordination, unable to receive orders from their commander. Ralvik watched in horror as his organized blockade descended into confusion. 3 of his ships had already been disabled. 2 more were reporting serious damage. How was this possible? These were supposed to be primitives. "All ships form defensive positions," he commanded. But many ships did not receive the order. Their communications were jammed by human electronic warfare. Another lesson learned from centuries of human conflict. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the human fleet retreated back to Earth's protection. But they had accomplished their goal. 5 alien ships were destroyed. 8 more were damaged. The blockade had been broken in multiple places. Most importantly, humanity had captured an alien supply depot on one of Jupiter's moons. The supplies and technology inside would be invaluable. Back on Earth, Brandon Walsh led a team to examine the captured alien technology. What they found exceeded their hopes. Not only did they have physical examples of alien weapons and shields, but they also had technical manuals and maintenance records. "This is a treasure," Brandon said excitedly to Dr. Tyler Brooks. "With this information, we can understand how their systems work. We can improve our own designs. We can even find more weaknesses to exploit." "How long will it take to reverse engineer this?" Tyler asked. Brandon smiled. "If we were trying to understand it completely, years. But if we just want to copy and improve it, give me 2 weeks." True to his word, within 2 weeks human engineers had incorporated alien technology into their own ships. But they did not simply copy it. They improved it. They found ways to make the systems more efficient, more powerful, and more reliable. The aliens had grown complacent with their technology. Humans, desperate and creative, found innovations that had been overlooked for centuries. Commander Ralvik sent urgent messages to the Galactic Council. "These humans are more dangerous than we believed," he reported. "I need reinforcements immediately." The blockade is no longer secure. The Council was alarmed. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they were facing unexpected resistance. Commander Vextar addressed the assembly with concern. "It seems we underestimated these primitives," he admitted reluctantly. "We will send Fleet Admiral Corvex with a larger force. This situation must be contained before it inspires rebellion in other species." Fleet Admiral Corvex was a veteran commander, experienced in dozens of campaigns. As he prepared his armada for the journey to Earth, He did something unusual. He requested access to the ancient archives. He wanted to read the predecessor warnings that Keeper Shenva had mentioned. Shenva was surprised but pleased. Finally, someone was taking the warnings seriously. She provided Corvex with all the documents she had about humanity. As Corvex traveled through space toward Earth, he read carefully. The more he read, the more concerned he became. The predecessors had studied humanity 10,000 years ago. They had watched humans survive in one of the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. Earth was a death world, with violent weather, deadly predators, and countless dangers. Humans had not just survived but thrived. One passage stood out to Corvex. The persistent species does not accept defeat. Where other species would surrender, they fight. Where other species would despair, they adapt. They turn every setback into a lesson. Every loss makes them stronger. We made the mistake of provoking them. Do not repeat our error. Corvex wondered what had happened to the predecessors. They had been powerful and advanced, yet they had disappeared thousands of years ago. Had humanity played a role in their extinction? The records did not say, but the implication was troubling. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was not resting. President Katie Sullivan addressed the planet in a broadcast that reached every corner of the world. "We have proven that we can fight," she said. "We have shown the galaxy that humanity will not surrender its freedom. But this is just the beginning. We must prepare for a longer war. We must unite like never before. Every person, every nation, every resource must be dedicated to our survival and our victory." The response was overwhelming. Humans had always been divided by borders, languages, and cultures. But when faced with an external threat, they came together. Factories that once built consumer goods now built weapons. Scientists who studied peaceful topics now worked on military applications. Artists created propaganda that inspired courage and determination. Amy Rodriguez continued her secret communications with Keeper Shenva. The old archivist provided valuable intelligence about council politics and military movements. "Many species are watching your resistance with interest," Shenva wrote. "Some have been under council control for generations. They are tired of being treated as inferior. Your defiance gives them hope. But be warned, the council cannot allow you to succeed. If you win your freedom, others will demand theirs. The council will send everything they have to crush you." Amy shared this information with President Sullivan and Admiral Bennett. They knew the stakes were high. This was not just about Earth anymore. This was about the future of freedom in the galaxy. Admiral Bennett promoted Jake Morrison to Commodore. Jake now commanded an entire carrier group, using converted colony ships as mobile bases. His unconventional tactics had proven highly effective. Nicole Parker was promoted to lieutenant and given command of her own squadron. The human fleet began conducting raids throughout the solar system. They attacked alien supply lines. They ambushed patrol groups. They made the aliens afraid to travel alone. Every engagement taught humans more about alien tactics and technology. 3 months after the first battle, Fleet Admiral Corvex arrived with his armada. He brought 200 warships, 4 times the force that Ralvik had commanded. Surely this would be enough to crush the human resistance. But as Corvex studied the intelligence reports, he felt uneasy. The humans he was facing were not the same humans who had been blockaded 6 months ago. They had evolved. Their ships were now comparable to alien technology. Their tactics were sophisticated and unpredictable. Their determination seemed unbreakable. He remembered the predecessor warnings. They do not know when they are beaten. Corvex feared he was about to learn what that meant. Fleet Admiral Corvex had expected many things when he arrived at Earth. He expected to find a desperate, struggling species clinging to survival. He expected to see fear and weakness. Instead, he found a civilization that had transformed itself into a war machine in less than a year. His sensors detected hundreds of human ships. New stations orbited Earth and Mars. The asteroid belt was filled with mining operations and construction facilities. This was not a species preparing to surrender. This was a species preparing for a long war. "Send them our terms," Corvex ordered. "Offer them one final chance to submit peacefully. Perhaps they will see reason when faced with overwhelming force." Admiral Chris Bennett received the message on his flagship. He read it carefully, then sent back a simple response. "We would rather die free than live as slaves. If you want Earth, you will have to take it from our cold, dead hands." Corvex had expected this response, but he had hoped for better. He did not want to exterminate humanity. He had read the predecessor warnings. He knew there was something special about these beings, but the Galactic Council had given him orders and he would follow them. Begin the assault, he commanded. The largest space battle in human history began. 200 alien warships advanced on Earth. They were met by the combined human fleet, now numbering over 300 ships. The humans were still technologically inferior in many ways, but they made up for it with tactics, determination, and sheer numbers. Commodore Jake Morrison led his carrier group against the alien left flank. His ships moved in coordinated patterns that confused the alien formation. He used asteroids and debris as cover, attacking from unexpected angles. Lieutenant Nicole Parker commanded a squadron of fast attack ships. Her job was to target alien supply vessels and support ships. She struck quickly and retreated before the enemy could respond. Her tactics were frustrating the aliens, who were not used to such aggressive, unpredictable warfare. Dr. Lisa Morgan and Dr. Tyler Brooks watched the battle from Earth's command center. They provided real-time analysis of alien tactics and suggested countermeasures. Their scientific approach to warfare was giving humans an edge. The alien formation is too rigid, Lisa observed. They follow doctrine too strictly. If we can create chaos in their ranks, they will not adapt quickly. Admiral Bennett nodded and issued new orders. Human ships began executing wild maneuvers, breaking every rule of conventional space combat. They flew in spirals, made sudden stops and accelerations, and even rammed damaged ships into alien vessels. It was insane, desperate, and effective. The battle raged for 2 days. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Crews died, but humans kept fighting. When a ship was too damaged to continue, its crew evacuated and joined other ships. Nothing was wasted. Every resource was used. On the 3rd day, the focus of the battle shifted to Mars Station, a crucial human outpost. Corvex concentrated his forces there, determined to break human resistance. He threw half his fleet at the station, expecting to overwhelm its defenders. Admiral Bennett commanded the defense personally. He had only 50 ships to defend against 100 alien vessels. The odds were terrible. But he had Lieutenant Nicole Parker, and he had the determination of every human under his command. "We hold this line," Bennett told his captains. "Mars Station cannot fall. If we lose it, we lose our forward supply base. Without it, defending Earth becomes nearly impossible. We hold here or we die trying." The Battle of Mars Station became legendary. For 2 weeks, Admiral Bennett's fleet fought against overwhelming odds. Ships that should have retreated instead stayed and fought. Crews that should have surrendered instead continued firing until their last weapon was destroyed. Nicole Parker led a desperate boarding action that turned the tide. Her Marines captured an alien command ship, using its weapons against other alien vessels. The aliens had never expected humans to board their ships during battle. It was considered too dangerous, too risky. But humans did not care about risks when survival was at stake. Corvex watched his fleet suffer losses he had never imagined possible. These humans fought with a passion and intensity that defied logic. They should have been defeated by now. They should have seen the futility of resistance. But they kept fighting. He remembered another passage from the predecessor warnings. Do not trap them. Do not give them no choice but to fight. A cornered, persistent species will achieve the impossible. Finally, after 2 weeks of constant combat, Corvex ordered his fleet to retreat from Mars. He had lost 30 ships trying to take the station. It was an unacceptable loss. He pulled his forces back to regroup and reconsider his strategy. On Mars Station, exhausted human defenders celebrated. They had won an impossible victory. Admiral Bennett looked at his remaining ships and crew. They had paid a heavy price, but they had held the line. Back at the Galactic Council, news of the defeat caused panic. Commander Vextar could not believe the reports. How could a primitive species defeat a fleet 4 times larger than the original blockade force? These humans are spreading propaganda, Vextar insisted. They are exaggerating their victories. This is impossible. But Keeper Shenva stood before the council with irrefutable evidence. It is not propaganda, she said. The humans are winning, and they are doing more than that. They are inspiring others. She displayed a map of the galaxy. On several worlds, protests had begun. Species that had been under council control for generations were demanding autonomy. The humans had sent broadcasts throughout the galaxy, messages of freedom and self-determination. Those messages were resonating with millions of beings who had forgotten what freedom meant. The Council faces a crisis, Shenva continued. If humanity wins, others will rebel. The entire galactic order could collapse. The Council members looked at each other with growing fear. What had started as a simple disciplinary action against one primitive world had become a threat to their entire civilization. Meanwhile, President Katie Sullivan made a bold decision. She authorized Operation Prometheus, named after the ancient human myth of bringing fire to humanity. The goal was simple but audacious. Human forces would begin liberating other species from Council control. Amy Rodriguez led the diplomatic effort. She sent secret messages to oppressed worlds, offering human assistance in their fight for freedom. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of species wanted help. Commodore Jake Morrison led the first liberation mission. His target was the Zelthi homeworld, a species that had been enslaved for 3 generations. The Zelthi had tried to rebel several times but had always been crushed by Council forces. Jake's fleet arrived at the Zelthi system and immediately engaged the Council garrison. The battle was quick and decisive. Human tactics, now refined by months of combat, overwhelmed the garrison forces. Within 3 days, the Zelthi were free. The freed Zelthi wept with joy. They had never expected to see freedom in their lifetimes. Many immediately volunteered to join the human fleet, wanting to help liberate others. News of the Zelthi liberation spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other species took notice. If the humans could free the Zelthi, perhaps they could free others too. Perhaps freedom was possible after all. Fleet Admiral Corvex watched these developments with a heavy heart. He knew what was coming. The Galactic Council would not accept these defeats. They would gather every available ship and launch one final massive assault. They would try to destroy Earth completely, to make an example that would terrify the galaxy into submission. He sent a secret message to Keeper Shenva. The Council is planning total war, he wrote. They will commit everything to destroying humanity. Thousands of ships, millions of troops. They believe overwhelming force will solve this problem. But I have read the predecessor warnings. I fear we are making a terrible mistake. Shenva forwarded the message to Amy Rodriguez. The humans needed to prepare for the largest battle in galactic history. The Council was coming with everything they had. Humanity's survival hung in the balance. 2 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. In that time, everything had changed. 15 species had declared independence from Council control, inspired by humanity's example. The galaxy was in chaos. The old order was crumbling. Commander Vextar stood before what remained of the Galactic Council. Many species had withdrawn their representatives. Others openly questioned the Council's authority. But Vextar refused to accept defeat. We must act decisively, he declared. If we eliminate humanity, we can restore order. Without their example, the rebellions will fade. Without their support, the liberated species will have no choice but to return to our authority. The remaining Council members agreed. They authorized the largest military operation in galactic history. Over 3,000 warships were assembled from every loyal species. It was an armada that could destroy entire solar systems. Surely it could crush one planet. But there was disagreement about who should command this force. Fleet Admiral Corvex had shown reluctance. He had studied the ancient warnings too carefully. He no longer believed that force alone could solve this problem. Vextar took command personally. This would be his victory. He would be remembered as the leader who saved the Galactic Council and restored order to the galaxy. On Earth, humanity knew what was coming. Intelligence reports from friendly species warned them of the massive fleet being assembled. Admiral Chris Bennett, now Supreme Commander of Allied Forces, coordinated the defense. But humanity was not alone anymore. The Zelthi, the Dravians, the Kelsar, and dozens of other liberated species sent their fleets to help defend Earth. They had learned much from humanity. They had seen that freedom was worth fighting for. They would stand together against tyranny. President Katie Sullivan addressed the combined forces in a broadcast that reached across the galaxy. 2 years ago we were alone, she said. We were told we were too primitive, too weak, too stubborn to matter. But we refused to surrender our freedom. Now we stand here with friends, with allies, with fellow free peoples. Together, we will defend not just Earth, but the principle that every species has the right to determine its own destiny. The speech was heard on thousands of worlds. On planets still under Council control, People watched in secret and whispered about rebellion. The Council's power was built on fear, and that fear was breaking. Commodore Jake Morrison prepared his fleet for the battle. He now commanded ships from a dozen different species, all united under the banner of freedom. Lieutenant Nicole Parker led a strike force of the fastest ships from multiple worlds. Dr. Lisa Morgan coordinated technology sharing between species, ensuring everyone had access to the best weapons and defenses. Brandon Walsh had developed a new weapon system that combined human innovation with alien technology from several species. It was more powerful than anything either humans or aliens had built alone. This was the advantage of cooperation over domination. As Vextar's massive fleet approached Earth, he felt confident. 3,000 ships against perhaps 500 defenders. The mathematics were simple. Victory was assured, but he had not learned the lessons that Corvex had learned. He had not read the predecessor warnings carefully. He did not understand that numbers alone do not determine the outcome of battles. The Battle of Terra began. It was the bloodiest conflict in recorded galactic history. For 3 days, ships fought and died in the space around Earth. The scale of the battle was unprecedented. Thousands of lives were lost on both sides. But something unexpected happened. Many of the Council's ships were crewed by conscripted forces, species that had been forced to fight. These crews did not want to be there. They did not believe in the Council's cause. They were fighting because they had no choice. Brandon Walsh remembered something Amy Rodriguez had suggested. Instead of just fighting with weapons, they could fight with information. He activated a special broadcast system and sent a message to every ship in the Council fleet. The message contained the complete predecessor warnings. Every ship's crew could read the ancient words. They could see what the predecessors had written about humanity. They could see that the Council had ignored these warnings. They could see that their leaders were fighting a war they could not win. But more importantly, the message included something else. It included the history of the liberated species. The Zelti told their story of oppression and freedom. The Dravians shared their joy at self-determination. Dozens of species spoke about how humanity had helped them claim their rights. The effect was immediate and devastating. Conscripted crews began to question why they were fighting. Some ships simply powered down their weapons and refused to continue. Others went further, actively joining the defenders. Vextar watched in horror as his fleet began to disintegrate. Ship after ship declared they would no longer fight for the Council. Some captains arrested their own officers who tried to force them to continue. The Great Armada was tearing itself apart from within. All loyal ships, maintain your positions, Vextar commanded. But his communications were being jammed by human technology. His orders never reached most of his fleet. On the third day of battle, with his fleet reduced to less than half its original strength and still shrinking, Vextar's flagship was disabled by a coordinated strike. Amy Rodriguez led a boarding party that captured him alive. She found him on his bridge, defeated and broken. "You could have listened," Amy said to him. "The ancient warnings were clear. The Keeper tried to tell you, but you were too proud to hear the truth." "What truth?" Vextar asked bitterly. "That freedom cannot be defeated by force," Amy replied. "That people who fight for their own liberation will always overcome those who fight because they are ordered to. That humanity was never your enemy. Your own arrogance was your enemy." With Vextar captured and his fleet scattered, the battle ended. The Council's forces retreated or surrendered. The defenders had won, but at a terrible cost. Hundreds of ships had been destroyed. Thousands of brave people had died. In the aftermath, representatives from across the galaxy gathered at Earth. The Galactic Council was formally dissolved. In its place, a new Galactic Assembly was formed. Every species, large or small, advanced or primitive, had equal representation. Decisions would be made through debate and consent, not force and intimidation. President Katie Sullivan delivered the founding speech of the new assembly. "We came together not because we sought power," she said, "but because we sought freedom. We fought not to dominate others, but to defend our right to exist as we choose. The galaxy has been changed forever. Let us make sure it changes for the better." Keeper Shenva, now very old, updated the Elder Archives with a new entry. She wrote carefully, knowing that future generations would read her words. "The humans came," she wrote. "They were warned away. They were attacked. They survived. They thrived. And they changed everything. The elders were right to warn us, but not because humanity was dangerous. Because humanity was transformative. They showed the galaxy that a different way was possible. That freedom was worth fighting for. That unity built on respect was stronger than control built on fear. The galaxy will never be the same, and perhaps that is exactly what we needed. Commodore Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking at Earth. The blue planet floated peacefully in space, no longer threatened by hostile fleets. Dr. Lisa Morgan joined him. "What do you think happens now?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Now we explore. Now we build. Now we create something better than what came before. We have proven we can fight. Now we prove we can live in peace." "Do you think the Council remnants will try again?" Lisa wondered. "Maybe," Jake admitted. "But they will remember what happened here. They will remember that humanity and our allies stood together. They will remember that freedom won." Far away on a distant world, Fleet Admiral Corvex read the reports of the battle. He had not participated in the final assault, having quietly resigned his commission. He sat in his private quarters reading the predecessor warnings one more time. He found the passage he was looking for. "The persistent species will change your galaxy. You cannot stop them. You can only choose whether to work with them or against them. We chose poorly. Learn from our mistake." Corvex smiled sadly. The predecessors had tried to warn everyone. But warnings are useless if no one listens. He hoped that the new Galactic Assembly would learn from the past. He hoped that the future would be better than what came before. On Earth, Amy Rodriguez walked through a memorial, built to honor all those who had died in the war for freedom. Human names were carved alongside alien names from dozens of species. They had all fought together. They had all sacrificed for the same cause. She stopped at one section and read aloud. "They told us we were too primitive, too aggressive, too stubborn. Perhaps we are. But we are also free, and we believe every species deserves that same freedom." The sun set over the memorial. A new era had begun. The elders had warned them about humanity. They should have listened, not because humanity would destroy them, but because humanity would free them. And freedom once tasted can never be forgotten.